Good evening, everyone. It's Jackie Rose, founder of Grieving Moms Finding Hope. Hello to my beautiful, beautiful community of sweet mamas that have lost a child. Thank you for being here. If it is your very first time, truly, deeply sorry that this is the place that you've landed in your life. And to those of you that have been so loving and supportive for this ministry, praying and just supporting us on many levels to continue to sustain us, you have no idea how greatly appreciated that you are. So tonight we are doing a part two. I honestly, gosh, you guys, I cannot believe that it's time for Easter. Honestly, I feel like it's been such a whirlwind. I guess too, I put things into perspective since my accident and Thanksgiving, had a bike accident. If you haven't, been with us, had brain concussion, whatnot, and really kind of put me out for a while with vertigo and different things. And then just so many things. I moved my dad from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho to here in Bend, Oregon to assisted living. And it's just been a whirlwind. And now here I am delivering a message this evening called Resurrection Morning. What really happened? This beautiful picture that is in the background here, I've had it for years. And honestly, since I moved into this home 2 years ago, I had put it with some other pictures I haven't hung up yet. And I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot all about this. And so it just takes my breath away when I see it. And it's almost as if there was a window behind that picture, but there's not. And just showing the illumination of just, you know, God opening up the clouds. And because this is the most significant time of the year. If you guys are on watching, you know the drill. Put your name, where you're viewing from. You can put in there the name of your child. You can put in there any questions you might have. I'll do my best to address it. My sweet partner in crime here, Lisa Didden, she is, if you were on last week, some of you might have seen the kaleidoscope effect that she had in on her camera. Well, as it turns out, she had spilled iced tea onto the keyboard, and I know truly she's not going to like when I say this, but it was kind of a gift because her computer is 10 years old. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe it was just God's way of saying, okay, bye bye. And so I'm so grateful that she ordered a computer and it's going to take her some time to get it up and running. Actually, she had to order it. So, anyway, I said, no worries, I can deliver this message. It wouldn't be as entertaining. Well, I guess primarily for me to, not have her on here, but nonetheless, here we are. Hi, Missy. Thank you for putting in your name from New Orleans and Stacy from Washington State, your son Nathan. I'm so appreciative, you guys, when I get to see some life out there because it's just me here and this computer. So I want to read this little hi Christy from Midland, Texas. Mackenzie Forever 28. God bless you guys. So I have had this Bible. It is the oh no, I just lost the place. It is the NIV Life Application Bible. It was the very first Bible that my friend Melissa gave me when I became a Christian many years ago. And hopefully I'll be able to get to this again. Let's try here. Nope. Well, we know there's four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and are just told from a different perspective. They're a little bit different, but nonetheless, they're all the truth and they're eyewitnesses to what happened. Let me go back here to Matthew and see if I can pull up what I was going to read. Maybe the Lord just doesn't want me to read it, but I think it's pretty significant. It basically is the entire crux of why we are Christian and we celebrate this special time of the year. So bear with me. Here it is. So in the life application, it's beautiful because the bottom, it really does, as many years as I've been a Christian, I still like to have it broken down for me. So in Matthew 26:39, uh, I lied. It's not that one. Okay, I'm going to keep searching for it as I am talking. But continue. Hi, Sandy. Thank you for being here. continue to put in your comments Mark, Luke, and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's pretty easy to remember that. Uh, Let me just get to it. Hold on here. And again, maybe the Lord doesn't want me to read it, but I just have a feeling that it's just because I was being careless and I bumped my Bible and it just moved. Hold on a second. Okay, so while I'm looking for that, I'm going to tell you guys, please don't forget that we have some spots still open for the retreat that is going to be in Texas. I know that Christy, I see you're from Texas. I don't know how close you are to where the retreat is, but nonetheless, I hope that you can make it there. So you can go on grievingmoms.com and you can look for that. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I love how candid that I am and how I guess I could say I'm comfortable with you guys that I can sit here and do what I'm doing, which is flipping through God's word, which is a beautiful thing. So we'll come back to it. Otherwise, I'll put it in the comments. Anyway, without even having to read it, we just know that Easter, Resurrection Sunday, is the time. Yes, Christmas celebrates the birth of Jesus, but Easter celebrates and recognizes that Jesus was not just man, that he was the Son of God. And tonight I'm going to talk to you about so many things that took place on that Resurrection Sunday. Last week we talked about the time, in between Friday when they crucified Jesus and then Saturday it was very still. And the disciples were panicking and they were being very disappointed. And they were like, wait a minute, what happened? I thought he was supposed to come back. And it's kind of reminding us of being in that place of from when we've lost a child until Jesus meets us again and we get to meet our children. It's almost like that quiet, what do we do during this time? We forget, we focus on the disappointments, but there's still a time of resurrection for our lives, even. He's going to give you that plan and that purpose to happen. Okay, so the resurrection wasn't just an event, it was personal, it was intentional, it was victory over everything that we fear the most, which is death, loss, and separation. The Gospels that write about resurrection morning, of course, as I mentioned, Matthew 28, John 20, and Luke 24. I cannot believe why this happens whenever you're looking for something. And again, I'm not going to bore you with it, but for some reason, all of a sudden, it's just vanished. It just literally vanished. Okay, moving on. Okay, the thing that looked final wasn't final. What looked sealed was already broken open by God. Lisa talks often, hi Tracy. Lisa talks often about when she lost her child, Christopher, that she was broken open. It's that time where God really gets our attention. We're broken open, and then so that He can fill us up with all that He has for us. So let's speak to grief here just for a moment. That place that feels closed and sealed and unreachable, God is not locked out of it, you guys. I know, again, I mentioned last week, I have had a friend that just recently, very recent, lost her son. Like it was a big surprise. And I've just been really in touch with remembering those early stages of the loss of Randy. And it's just so raw and real as you guys, just remember. So let's talk about this is fascinating to me. So first of all, the clothes that were in the grave, it was intentional that they were folded. So Jesus had, the shroud that wrapped around his face, and then he had the linens that were wrapped around his body. He didn't flee in a he, everything was intentional. Yes, he went in and he folded the the cloth around his face, and then he also folded and laid the linens next to uh, the part that covered his face in the like exact like position as if he rose straight out of the clothing. You know, when you sometimes get out of bed and just kind of throw the sheets back and everything's in just disarray, whatever. But no, Jesus was intentional because it literally looked like, according to the eyewitnesses that were there, which by the way, hi Debbie, were from Kentucky. The women, we're going to talk about that in a moment here, why the women were the first to show up. So, but how cool is it to know that the grave clothes were left as if Jesus had passed right through them? The headpiece was still rolled up in the shape of a head and the right distance from the wrappings that enveloped Jesus' body, as I just said. Why does this matter? Again, it was intentional. A cultural insight. This is really, there is so much depth and amazement that, again, continues to, it just blows my mind about God's word. When people, oh, you don't understand it, it's so deep. Of course, you're not going to understand it right away. It's so deep. But in that time, a folded napkin meant, I'm not finished. I'm coming back. How amazing is that? Again, talk about Jesus' intentionality. Folding them as if he's not done, he's coming back. He didn't rush out of the grave, he left evidence of peace, order, and promise. So, you guys, God is not frantic in your story, although you may be feeling very frantic in yours. At times, you don't know what's up, you don't know what's next, you're hopeless, you have a lot of fear. Everything is so different than the way that it used to be. Even in the resurrection, there is intentionality. Okay, why did Jesus choose women to come as the first witnesses? I mean, how cool is that, really? I mean, the first thing I think about is that women are so nurturing. They're so comforting. They wanted to go and prepare Jesus' body and do all the spices and everything that it took because it's just a part of what a female does. Hi, Debbie. So, heaven values what the world overlooks. In first century culture, women's testimony was often not considered valid in court. They were overlooked, dismissed, and undervalued. Yet, God chose them first. It's not accidental. Again, it's intentional. And you know, you could say that God didn't choose the most believed voices, He chose the most faithful hearts because they stayed when others left. So, look at this pattern. The disciples fled after Jesus was died on the cross. Of course, they were frantic. They were scared. They were in disarray. They didn't know what was going to happen. They did not want to be associated with Jesus without them really saying so because they feared for them being killed or being put into prison because they knew him. They followed him. But the women stayed at the cross. You can read that at Matthew 27:55 through 56. They stayed through the burial and they came back early to the tomb. They were present in his pain, and because they stayed through Friday, they were the first to see Sunday. Powerful truth. Those who stay close in the suffering often get the first glimpse of resurrection. Now, what does that really mean? I'd say, for example, this is my translation of it, is that, for instance, Stacy and I did a video this morning and asked me some specific questions about, how Grieving Moms started and, why it started, what happens to a mom when they first come into the ministry versus maybe when they're done after the 12 weeks of going through resurfacing. And so I have had the honor of staying close to many of you throughout your suffering. Well, many of you I haven't met, of course. I have met a lot of you, but I have probably a good handful of the women that are in leadership and have seen in retreats that I have watched over the time, and I've stayed close to them in their suffering. And so it has been my honor to get a glimpse of their, more or less, their resurrection, their coming back to life, so to speak, and knowing that Jesus still has a plan for them. Does that make sense? So let me just say too, when Stacy had said, what is Grieving Moms Finding Hope so much? Grieving Moms Finding Hope to me is a home for the women that you all that are lost. You're hopeless. This is a safe place for you. This is a place that we focus on the Word of God because we know that He has a plan for us. He's got joy in our future, even though it feels like you're never going to have that again. He has this plan for you. He does have a resurrected time of your life, believe it or not. And we have that same power that he had when he resurrected from the dead, when he was up on that cross and they laid him, they buried him, and he rose. We have that same power if we believe in him and trust in him. So, again, if you are new to this ministry, and or maybe you're just kind of dabbling in it and you're wondering, like, why should I come into this ministry? Well, because this ministry is not about me, it's not about the women that lead it, it's about Jesus. It is about tapping into knowing what it is that he has for us in order to, again, give us a resurrected life until he takes us home. I don't want to live like I'm dead on earth. Life is for the living, and life is also for us to do what it is that we have been told to do until we get to heaven. And when we do those things, when we find out what our gifts and talents are and our true purpose, it just gets us out of bed in the morning. It gets us up out of the grave, so to speak. That time of just being in your bed and you're sobbing and crying. And there is a time for that. There really is. As I was doing the video this morning, I placed a collage of pictures in front of me to take me back, to be in touch with my son, looking at those pictures and just seeing his innocence and his face when I was pregnant with him. It's a collage that my beautiful daughter-in-law put together when I when he was 1, when he was 2. I mean, it goes all the way through until pretty close to the very end of his life, which was when he was 30, which is so young. In fact, I'm looking at a picture of him over there. But when I was looking at it, I was thinking, wow, it's been 10 years. And yet, my heart still has a hole in it for sure. But it is better because I have been able to gift other women with the hope and healing that I have been given from so many other people. And when I end these broadcasts with "You're going to be okay," I really sincerely mean that. But it's not just by snapping your fingers. It's going to take you getting up and out of this place of discomfort and making an effort. And it's not fun, but it's going to be better and more rewarding for you to take those hard steps instead of just staying stuck in there. Okay, moving on to, so the last thing I said was those who stay close in the suffering often get the glimpse of resurrection. This was talking about why the Lord had used women being brought to the grave, the empty tomb first. And then there's the scars. If you read John 20:27, when Jesus talking to Thomas, better known as Doubting Thomas, then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. Do you see my hands? Reach out your hand and put it into my side and stop doubting and believe." And sometimes that's what we have to do, is we have to stop doubting, because we can be so absorbed in disappointment, as I said, that we miss out on what he's trying to do. Hello, Karen from Arkansas. Welcome, my friend. Jesus could have removed the scars, but he didn't. Why? Because the scars tell the story. Now, when I was putting this message together, I was thinking, my family has scars from what had happened with my son. My son attempted to take his family to heaven after losing hope, and then he took his own life, death by suicide. But my family has scars on their face from his attempt, And my book is coming out next month. I'm proud to say I'm getting a copy in my hands by the end of the week, which I don't say that like lightly. This has been a journey. Just as a little side note, it is called Landslide, and it's going to give you all of the details of my life and what took place during my landslide. Uh, well, I don't know your name. It says in just a little while, but I love that. But welcome to you. So when I think about my family, my daughter-in-law and my two grandsons, and then of course her dad, they were the victims in this, and they have their scars. And as many times as people have said, why don't you guys go in and surgically, have these scars removed? And they're not horrible. Over time, they have definitely healed, but they're very evident. Hi, Susie. Thank you for sharing what your name is. They are there. Marseille's got down by her mouth. Noah has by his mouth. Jack's are, they're not as evident there, and so I think Marseille has just said, if I remove those scars, I'm not able to testify and share what my story is. Now she can do that, but when people see her, most people, out of being polite, see them and maybe they or just stare at them. And some people have said, you know, what happened, especially to the boys, because kids are kids, they're now 16 and 14, and they'll ask what happened. Now the boys it's a little bit more difficult with it, but Marseille will discern who she's going to talk to and who she's going to share with, but it is an open opportunity to share her testimony. And so that's what Jesus was doing. He was showing Thomas, who's like, I died for you. And in Marseille's case, she was saying, I cried out the name of Jesus during that time, and he saved our lives. He covered our necks and protected us. So people that have scars, it's a story. Some people are ashamed of them, but I really believe that if you know that Jesus saved you with those scars, that would be something that is pretty amazing, if you're willing to do that. So resurrection doesn't erase what happened. It actually redeems it. The wounds that you guys carry, God doesn't ignore them. He transforms them. I know you guys all have wounds. Maybe not even just the wounds from losing a child, and those are pretty deep. But you may have wounds that are unresolved from a long time ago. I mean, I heard statistically like there's over 70% of women that have been victimized in some way. And those are the ones, accordingly, that have actually shared that. So if you can imagine, we all have a story. And the most important thing is to find someone that you trust and share that with that person. Pray with that person. Give that story over to Jesus. Tell him to come into your heart and to heal that. The last thing we want to do is keep carrying it around and not sharing it, because it's going to be with you wherever you go. Your story doesn't end in loss. God holds every single part of that story, and he will redeem what feels unbearable. You guys, it's unbearable some days. Again, my friend that just lost her son, I know there's days that it is just unbearable. It's the same with you. Hi, Linda. It's just unbearable for you. And then maybe the next day won't be as bad. So my question to you is, what are you doing for yourself in order to get through this? You're not going to get over it. You're going to get through it day by day. Are you involved in, I know you're watching whoever's on here. Hi, Melinda. I know you're here watching, this broadcast. And I know that maybe you've been in a Zoom group and gone through resurfacing. Maybe you get my devotionals online that you can have sent to your email. Maybe you get the newsletter, all the resources that we have. But truly, what are you doing daily, step by step, in order to become healed? Do you have a counselor? Do you have some kind of daily, like, time that you spend with Jesus? This community here is an accountability on all of those levels. Our four pillars are Christ and church and community and compassionate care. All together, that creates a perfect plan and a system for you to get better, to get some healing done for yourself. Some of you are in really small towns and you don't know anybody. We have Grieving Moms Face to Face. You know, you can find that on the website. You may find a mom that literally lives 2 blocks from you that you didn't even know. There are women probably in your church that you don't know that have lost a child because it's not something a lot of people want to talk about. I know in my own church, I have shared my story in a Bible study, just a general women's Bible study we've gone through. And, you know, of course, so much of how I live life is based on like from losing Randy and going forward. It doesn't mean I'm dragging it around. It just means that life definitely shifted for me. It actually drew me in closer to Jesus, and I'm 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 proud to share the story because of what it has done to deepen my relationship. I'm not happy that it is my story, but I do share it. And it's amazing how all of a sudden the room gets quiet. And I'm sure you guys have been able to relate to this. And then all of a sudden, someone in there will say, "Wow, I've never told anybody this, but I've also lost a child." And I just look at him and I go, "How long ago?" Well, it ranges 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, and they haven't talked about it. They haven't sought out help. And it's almost like they're just carrying this extra weight that they could just shed off of their back and know that they're not alone. You don't have to be alone. And that's one of the many things that we do in this ministry. And that is to have women that you can have a conversation with that are not going to judge you. They're not going to be surprised. They're they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I that's happened. Yeah, I remember walking out and I didn't know where my car was. I remember, you know, just all of a sudden I was going through the day and I felt normal. And then all of a sudden, boom, I just remembered that I lost my daughter or I lost my son and my whole day shifted. What happened?" So Stacy said, "My pastor wrote a book on grief. It needs to be talked about." 100%. And again, it's not something that you may feel comfortable with, but I need to tell you this. It is a statement that I did not coin myself. It came from another friend of mine, but when you tell your story, it takes away the pain. It takes away its pain. And I know that husky hair. I know that I have heard this from many women, which is I've never told this story to anybody. And all of a sudden I just see this lightness about them. I even get a little smile. So bringing it back to you, are you guys, those of you that are watching that have been doing this alone, I'm here to just tell you that I love you enough to say to you, take a step. And again, it doesn't have to be here at Grieving Moms Finding Hope, but it needs to be somewhere because you're not that powerful to be able to do this on your own. By you holding this in and you not wanting to share, it's like you got you got nothing to prove. You're not proving that you're strong and courageous and you can do this all by yourself. No, because that is like the enemy holding you back from getting your healing that you need. Hi, Melissa from Alabama, and hi, Donna. All right, I am going to close with this. Last week, again, we talked about that time between Friday, Saturday, when there was just the quietness, and a lot of you are in that place where you're just waiting for some good news. Sunday, Resurrection Day, is the day that is the good news that came. And Jesus resurrected. It is the day that he proved that he was no longer just a plain man. He was the Son of God. And there is countless testimonies And if you're one of those that are saying, well, I don't believe that, and that's fine. Do your own research. But I just have to tell you, there is more evidence that proves that Jesus rose from the dead than there isn't. Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, one of those books. He was a Chicago journalist, and his wife was a believer. And she finally basically brought him to the challenge where he said, you know what? All right, fine. I'm going to write a report. I'm going to write a story. I'm going to do research. I'm going to do it, go after it like it's a crime scene. And I'm going to find out, who is this guy? And he found that there was more evidence that he existed and that he was the Son of God. He could not prove him wrong. What is the title of, probably the lady that mentioned about her pastor. Stacey, if you know the title of that book, you can certainly put it in the comments. So speaking of books, again, I got to tell you guys, you're going to hear a lot about it because after, well, 10 years since Randy's passed away, journaling a lot of the days and the weeks and the months of things that have happened during my grieving time, and then taking all that documentation and then transcribing it, putting it to the keyboard on my laptop. And if anybody's written a book, you know. If you don't, let me just tell you, it is a long and very lonely process. Talk about isolating. But I will have to say that when I get that book in my hands, I am going to say this right now to you guys: to God be the glory, because it's going to be out there. The truth about a lot of stuff is going to be out there. And I'm prepared to receive the good, the bad, the indifferent, but it is my story. And from that story, from what I walked and how Jesus has carried me through, I'm just going to believe and say, in all honesty, that people's lives are going to change. I'm just going to speak it because the blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, that I put into that is was not done in vain. It was definitely done as a gift to many, because you don't go through something this horrific and not just let it go by. All right. So again, we have some spots left for retreats. We definitely have groups that are probably going to be coming up. I know that we're in the midst of doing some right now, so I don't know if there's any available. Nonetheless, we have the Just Be Journal, and we have daily devotionals that go out. Again, you can meet in with these groups going through resurfacing, get in a church maybe, or if it's in somebody's home. Maybe you feel like you've gone through resurfacing or you want to go, and then you're like, you know what, I would love to help other women through what I've gone through too. We go through a process. If you want to become a leader in the ministry, we have so many amazing leaders that are now my dearest, dearest friends. They are amazing. I'm sorry, I'm going to just brag on them. They're amazing. They really are. We have gotten to know each other over time and trusted one another and laughed as hard as we've cried, and on and on and on. But that also will happen at a retreat when you guys get to go to a retreat. Uh, Linda, and she is one of those beautiful mamas. We are appreciative for your courage, Jackie. Thank you. I love you. Her son Jacob, forever 38. Yes, Linda is one of my beautiful leaders too. And talk about courageous. Like, she's got a group with our other leader, Karen. I think there's 8 to 10 women in that group that they meet on Zoom. And I gotta say, you guys, these ladies, they have a life too. They're grieving, but yet they know the value of being able to comfort others in the midst of their grief, paying it forward, to them. Also, still hoping that somebody will say, you know what, I would love to share my story here with you on Facebook Live, because I know it's going to bless many people. And if you really do want to do that, just go ahead and say hello at grievingmoms.com. You can just email us with that. And yeah, I promise you, I'm going to make it very, very easy and comforting. We pray together and I get to know you. So thank you guys for all of your beautiful comments. I'm so thankful that I found you guys. Christy saying that she found this group, and I always enjoy being here. Thank you for your grace. Again, life happens. Over 10 years, I haven't had too many huge things happen in life, but boy, I got hit big time the last couple of months. And but I'm proud to say that God has brought me to this place. I love what I do, and I look forward to hopefully meeting you guys, especially at a retreat. And God bless you guys. And guess what? You're going to be okay.